Hi everybody, welcome back to another lesson with Laura. Today we're running slightly late, sorry, I've had some issues with the technology as usual. Anybody who's familiar with my lessons will know that I can never wrap my head around this technology. If you're watching this back, this is the second lesson this week. Usually we have lessons on Mondays and Tuesdays, 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. Yesterday we did conjunctions and today we've got phrasal verbs. Hello Saeed, thank you for joining us today. I'm an English teacher. My name's Laura and I live in Liverpool. Hopefully you'll find the lesson useful, but as always I'd love to hear your feedback. If you've got anything in particular that you'd like me to teach next week or that you need answering, please remember to feel free to message the Merseyside publishing page, that's MPUB IELTS, and you can always just let me know what you'd like to see or comment it in the box. If you direct your message to Laura, then I should see it and be able to get back to you as soon as possible. Hi everybody who's in the chat, Tarek and Walia and Ghaznavi. Yeah, like I say, I had some issues getting on with the technology this morning. It's been just one of those days, I'm afraid. And we'll get on with the lesson in a minute. I'll won't keep everybody. I just one of those days. Yeah, so like I say, if there is something that you'd like to see, please do let me know. I think Walia suggested yesterday that we do some spelling. So if everybody would be interested in that, I could definitely go through that with you. Depends what everybody would like to see. Okay, so it's been 2 minutes, so I think we'll get started, if that's okay. So, like I say, this lesson will be on phrasal verbs in the English language. Perfect them in your own speaking and writing. So, again, it's another one of those topics where the topic isn't the most challenging aspect of the English language. It's not really long words. It's not really complex grammar. However, when you get them wrong, it makes your writing or your speaking look a little bit silly. Not silly in the fact that what you're saying is silly, but it's just that it becomes quite obvious that you aren't quite where you should be with your English. Okay, so, oh, Saeed, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And if you just message me privately afterwards, if you just direct message the page, we'll sort something out, okay? Thank you. So first of all, what is a phrasal verb? Well, a phrasal verb consists of a verb and another element, typically either an adverb, a preposition, or a combination of both. Okay, an idiomatic phrase is one in which the meaning is determined by the usage, not by the words involved. So if anybody hasn't watched that PowerPoint about idiomatic phrases, idioms, we did a couple of lessons, or must be 3 weeks ago now. And if you did think, you're not sure about them, you can just scroll back on the Facebook page and find that lesson. I think it might be quite helpful for you. We go through quite a lot of idioms, examples in that. Okay. Why should I learn how to use phrasal verbs correctly? Well, incorrect phrasal verbs can make it clear to native speakers that your English speaking and writing skills are not perfect. So, like I said before, it can look a little bit silly. It's a very quick and easy way to determine what level that learner is at. So if you think about it for the exam, the examiner's obviously looking to grant you points. They're looking they want you to pass. Everybody wants you to pass. But when you make a very, very obvious and silly mistake, it becomes an awful lot easier to mark you down. So if you can avoid those really simple mistakes, then you've got a far better chance of getting into those higher bands. Like I say, they're really easy to get the hang of with practice. They're a really easy part of the English language, but I think they come more naturally maybe to native speakers who've grown up with them and always found them easy, as opposed to people who are learning and maybe there is no sort of pattern for how they should look. So anyway, we'll have a look at some examples. Let's look at the verb to break. So when we just think of the word break, we typically think, break into pieces. But as you can see here, there's a lot of different meanings that can change the verb break depending on which preposition it is paired with. So we've got break up, which is to separate into pieces. Break down, which is to collapse or to cease to function. Usually that refers to either a relationship breaking down or a vehicle. And then there's break out, which is to escape or to develop spots on the skin. Like when people get, sort of periods where their skin gets really bad. That is a breakout. And then finally break off, which is to end a relationship with somebody. So those are the various kinds of break. Obviously, they all come in different contexts. They all have different prepositions at the end. And they all will slightly alter the meaning of the word break. So let's look at some examples. I no longer love him, so it's time to break the relationship. I heard a bang and knew the car was about to break. She had a stressful week and her skin started to break. The child cannot chew big pieces of food, so it will be necessary to break the bread into chunks. So, of course, from this example, where the context that the word is in really helps us when we're trying to decide which preposition should be in the blank. So, of course, I've just told you about words having particularly be common in certain contexts. So relationships, cars breaking down, skin breaking out. So it's quite clear which one should be going where. So I thought we'd start off with an easy one, just to give everybody the hang of it. So the first one would be I no longer love him, so it's time to break off the relationship. I heard a bang and I knew the car was about to break down. She had a stressful week and her skin started to break out. The child cannot chew big pieces of food, so it will be necessary to break up the bread into chunks. And yeah, hi Sharaful, lovely to have you back in the sessions. I've noticed that you've returned. Nice to have you back. Okay, and now we've got a couple more, slightly more difficult. Can everybody see that? Yeah. So we've got bring about, which is to effect a change. Bring down, which is to reduce. Bring in, which is to move something indoors. To bring along, which is to take someone or something to a place. And to bring back, which is to return something, to bring it back to its original position or placement or state. Okay, so those are our different prepositions that we're pairing with bring. And then we have the examples. It's time we bring some different attitudes about equality. The area that the house is in will certainly bring the price. Can you bring the washing? Do you want to bring a partner to the party? And make sure you bring this book before next week. So you can see in each case the word bring and then the preposition is determining the position of a verb. So where is the book going to go next week? Where will the partner be in relation to the party? Where will the washing be? Where will the price be? And where will the different attitudes about equality be? So if you think about it like that, it might help you to determine what sort of preposition you should choose for those sentences. Like I say, these are so commonly mixed up by new speakers, and it's such a shame because people with really quite advanced English, it can make your English seem just not quite up to standard. So if you can nail these and you can become confident with them, I'm sure it will really help your writing and your speaking in the long run. So if anybody's not watching live, I've just given you a minute there to just work through those and decide which prepositions you'd put in. We'll flick back to the slide now. So it's time that we bring about some different attitudes about equality. The area that the house is in will certainly bring down the price. Can you please bring in the washing? Do you want to bring along a partner to the party? Make sure you bring back this book before next week. Okay, so like I say, it's useful to think about how the noun will be changing due to the way that you change out the preposition. Okay. And also, just as a side note, how comfortable is everybody with the spelling of the word effect? Effect and affect, E and A, obviously. Just as a side note, I'm thinking about what spelling we'd do next week, and I'm interested to know what sort of spelling you'd like to work on. Would you like some maybe of the more challenging words, or would you like, words that are really commonly misspelt in the English language? There's an awful lot of those, believe me. So it's really up to you. But if you could just let me know in the comments, please, particularly you, Walia, because I think it was you that said yesterday spelling. Really great suggestion. If anybody has any suggestions of what sort of spelling we could look at that you'd like to focus on, please let me know. Okay. Okay, so what's next? Okay, we've got a couple of back. We've got back up, which is to make a copy for security. Usually that involves technology, backing up emails, backing up files, backing up photos, whatever it is, which is to make a copy for safekeeping. And then we have to back down, which is to withdraw in the face of opposition. If you don't back your coursework, you risk losing it if the computer crashes. It should not be looked on as a weakness to back from a fight. Okay, so it's quite easy when we've got the definitions on the slide here and they're fresh in your mind. We've just I've just told you about them. But when you're in conversation and you're thinking ahead of what you're about to say, and you come to the word break or back or bring, it might not be quite as easy to pick out which preposition you need. It might require a little bit more thought, and I think that's why it's useful to get these practices in at this point and establish what each of those is meaning, because although you might know what the preposition means in isolation, for example, on, you might know obviously that that's on top of an object, above it, resting on it, or under, meaning obviously below. Although you might know what those mean in isolation, you might not know specifically what they mean in that context. And of course, back up has a context, back down has a context. It's not always so simple. Sorry, everybody, I was just asking if there's any specific spelling that you'd like to learn next week. There's a lot of words which are commonly misspelt in the English language that I'd be happy to go through. Or if you'd like a challenge, I can pick some more difficult words and we can do a spelling test in the comments. It's up to you, whichever you prefer. So if you could just let me know what sort of spelling you'd like to go through next week, we can do that. Okay, so back to the lesson. Like I say, the context is really important, and for non-English native English speakers, you might not be familiar with that context. Okay. Oh, I keep getting bigger and smaller. There we go. Okay, then the next one that I've got here is fill. So we've got fill up, which is to make full, and fill out, which is to complete answers to a set of questions. Can you fill up the bath for me, please? You need to fill out this form before the doctor sees you. So again, you've managed to pick out which preposition we're going to need based on the context rather than the meaning of the word fill and how that's changed by the preposition that we've chosen. Just as a side note, I'm not sure that this is actually proper English, but I'm going to put it on the slide anyway. You can also do fill in, which is to hurt someone in a fight. And I'm not sure if that's actually proper English or not. I don't think it is. I think that might be just maybe local slang, which means to hurt somebody badly in a fight. Okay, so Ghaznavi is saying he'd prefer some harder. That's unsurprising from Ghaznavi. It's quite difficult to pitch the difficulty of the lesson because it's catering to so many people, and not everybody's at the same level. So, whilst you might find things really easy, other people might find them really difficult, and I'm trying to get that balance. Well, anyway. And Walia also said silent letter would be helpful. Thank you for your suggestions. I'll do a lesson on both. Okay, so we've done fill up, fill out, fill in, if you want to do the slang. Now we've got set back, set off, set out, and set up. So a setback is a delay. To set off is to stir up bad feeling, usually resulting in arguments. To set out is to leave on a journey, and to set up is to arrange or prepare. So you'll notice that we're changing from a verb phrase to a noun in these examples. So we've got off, out, and up are all verb phrases. So we are stirring up bad feeling, leaving on a journey, or arranging. whereas set back is a noun. It's a delay. Okay, and again, those will become more clear in the context as we see them. But it's just good to be aware of how those things are going to change. Okay, so don't be discouraged by a minor set. If you don't tidy your room, you will set your mother. They set for the airport at 5 a.m. The murderer set the crime scene to look like a robbery. So if anybody's watching this not live, this is your chance to just maybe pause it and have a think about what prepositions would be going in the place of each underline. Hopefully that would be helpful for you, and you can see where they'd be, both in the context and also isolated as the meaning. So don't be discouraged by a minor set back. If you don't tidy your room, you will set off your mother. They set out for the airport at 5 a.m. and the murderer set up the crime scene to look like a robbery. Slightly morbid example, that last one maybe. For whatever reason, I just couldn't think of another thing. So Ghaznavi, bless him, has had a go at those and left them in the chat for you. So if you did miss me going through those there, you can go back and find those in the chat. Okay, then we've got, so some difficult combination phrasal verbs. These are slightly prepositional phrasal verbs, just because there's more than one word to attend to. So in addition to the verb, there's also usually either an adverb or a preposition. Or like I said, both. Excuse the yawn, sorry everybody. So we've got to look down on, which is to treat as inferior, to look up to, which is to admire, treat as superior, and to look forward to anticipate with excitement. So again, consider how the noun is going to change its relative position. The object and the subject are going to change position, sometimes metaphorically, sometimes literally. So for example, let's look at look down on. So we've got down, which is the downward action, and on, which suggests quite close to, so that you're able to physically look down upon somebody else. Relative spacing, you're looking onto somebody else, that suggests that you're above them. And that is reflected in the meaning as well, to treat as inferior. So when you treat somebody as inferior, it's generally suggested not that you're literally taller than them, or that you are close enough to them to look down physically, but the phrase implies its meaning in that, in a social hierarchy, in a hierarchy maybe within business, if you imagine it as a triangle, the people who are at the top can look downwards on people who are below them, on people who work for them, on people who maybe aren't as talented as them, or in society, maybe people who are less fortunate, who have less money, who live in a less privileged area. Those are the sorts of looking down on that maybe this phrase would connotate, of course. That's all silly, and I don't think that should exist like that, but I'm just explaining why the phrase works the way that it does. In the same similar way, look up to is going to change the object and the subject. So again, we're going to have the verb to look, and then up and to. We're having somebody placed above us, that you are able to look physically upwards, and at, which is, you know, that's again a really common way that people mess up this one, is to look up at, but they mean to look up to admire, to treat as superior. So it's the opposite of look down on, looking upwards, the hierarchy. And then to look forward to, again, I think as well, it's a little bit metaphorical again, this one, to look forward maybe in time. Yeah, to look, obviously you can't look forward in time, but to anticipate, to maybe to wish away that time, to want to forward it. I don't know, maybe that's where the phrase comes from. But we have some examples here. Nobody is better than anybody else, regardless of wealth or status. You should never look anybody else. Children learn much quicker when they have a role model to look. A hard day at work is much easier to deal with when I have something to look. So like I say, again, for anybody who is watching back, just pause it now and you should be able to go through those gaps and decide what you think, which preposition belongs in which gap. And when you've had a go, you can always leave them in the comments. Of course, it's not going to be a very difficult one, just because, you know, like I say, these lessons have got to pitch to lots of different levels, and we have just spoken about all these contexts. I have just given you the definitions of them, and the contexts are pretty similar to that definition, so that's why they might seem easy now and maybe marginally harder in practice in real life. Okay, so it would be nobody is better than anybody else, regardless of wealth or status. You should never look down on anybody else. Children learn much quicker when they have a role model to look up to. A hard day at work is much easier to deal with when I have something to look forward to. So as you can see, Ghaznavi's got those as well. So if you aren't sure about those, they should be on the screen now, or you can just check back in the comments. For Ghaznavi leaving those there for us, thank you. Okay, so that was look. Then we've got fed up with, which is to become frustrated by. Getting on with, which is to handle, to persevere, and have a friendly relationship. To put up with, which is to accept something unpleasant. And to get away with, which is to escape blame or punishment. So, yeah, quite a lot more difficult, I think, than the single word ones, particularly when they're quite similar. Up with, on with, away with. Yeah, I do think that makes it slightly more difficult. We'll have a go at the examples anyway. I'm getting very your bad attitude. I don't particularly his brother. I don't like the job, but I for the good wages. She didn't feel well, but she still. There's no way he will. The robbery. Okay, so maybe you'd like to have a go at those now. I'll just scroll there. Okay, I'll just give everybody a minute if you would like to have a go at those. And this isn't live, you can just pause it. Or anybody who's in the comments, I'll just give you 1 minute to have a go at them now. Pop them on full screen for you. Okay, I think that's given everybody enough time, I hope. So let's have a little look. I'm getting very fed up with your bad attitude. I don't particularly get on with his brother. I don't like the job, but I put up with it for the good wages. She didn't feel well, but she still got on with her work. Yeah. And there's no way he will get away with the robbery. Get away with. So I've put both senses of the word get on with in these examples. We've got the present tense, I don't particularly get on with his brother, and she didn't feel well, but she still got on with her work. So hopefully you picked those out and you got those right. Ghaznavi, fed up with, getting on with, put up with, yeah, and get away with, yeah. So you could have also put up with for the feeling unwell one as well. Okay. And then we have some extra ones that I just thought that I'd pop in at the end for anybody who maybe was unfamiliar with them. We have turn on, which is to start up, or also to make aroused, depending on the context. I haven't got any example sentences for those ones, so maybe you could work through the list and come up with some of your own. Think over, which is to consider carefully. To come along, which is to accompany to a place or resume progress. To work out, which is to solve a problem. To work up, which is gradually to bring somebody to a feeling, for example, anger or excitement, but also appetite. To go through, which is to undergo a difficult experience, for example, to go through grief or to go through, I don't know, just a bad thing in your life. Then pick out, which is to distinguish one from a group. And then we have blow out, to extinguish. To blow up, which is to cause to explode. To pull through, which is to endure and succeed the other side. The other side of the difficulty, of course, not necessarily, literally pull through. And then we have pass out, which is to fall unconscious. To pass away, which is to die. To give in, which is to concede. To give up, which is to resign. And to pull off, which is to succeed against the odds. Okay, so Ghaznavi's asked us what is the difference between pick up and pick out. So to pick out is to choose from a group or to distinguish from a group. So for example, I could pick out the only blonde person in a crowd. I could pick out, the nicest cake at the bakery. That is to distinguish among a group of many, just one superior or one that's different from the others. And you can pick it out without literally owning it or possessing it or moving it. It's a way of distinguishing, a way of perceiving or looking at things, not a way of owning, And pick up is to physically hold and lift from the ground. So for example, I could pick up this lipstick, or you could also have pick up, which is to go and drive to a place and to get somebody in your car and take them home. That is to pick up. So for example, I'll ask my sister to pick me up from the cinema at 4 o'clock. That wouldn't mean that she'd literally arrive and come and lift me off the floor. It would mean that she would come with her car, put me in the car and drive me home. So hopefully that makes sense. And I've answered your question. Yeah, okay. So obviously that brings us to the end of the slideshow now, which is pretty handy because it was 20 minutes late. Just couldn't get it together this morning. So hopefully that lesson's been somewhat useful for everybody. Next week, as I say, we'll be going through spelling. So we'll be doing, as Ghaznavi and Wally said, we'll do a silent lesson, and we'll do just generally more difficult words, difficult to spell and difficult for English speakers. So hopefully those will be useful for you. If you do have any other suggestions of things you'd like to see, whether that be spelling or otherwise, do let me know, because I'll be preparing my PowerPoints and materials this week. So even if you just message me directly, I'm happy to take your suggestions. So I'll bring the lesson to a close here then. Thank you for attending, everybody. Thank you for your participation, Walia and Ghaznavi, and thank you for everybody who just joined us and wanted to say hello. It was lovely to have you. I'm sorry that this lesson's been slightly shorter than usual. We'll just have to blame technology, I'm afraid. Hopefully everybody stays well. Look after yourselves this week, and the whole COVID situation is good in your own countries. We've got plenty more lessons this week with other tutors, so hopefully you find those useful as well. Feel free to message me personally. Just direct your message to Laura in the Merseyside Publishing Messenger page, and I'll get back to you. Okay, thank you everybody. Bye.